From roommates to co-hosts, this is the Backcheck with Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner, your go-to destination for New York hockey and NHL news. And now it's time to drop the puck. Here are your hosts, Brendan Azoff and Stefan Rosner.
I've been working on waiting for that beat to finish before we started. Welcome to Backcheck episode 5. I'm Brendan. With me, as always, is Stefan. We got a good show today. We got a special guest coming on, Jimmy Murphy, Boston Hockey Now writer. Most of you guys know him on Twitter as Murphy's Law. Has some controversial takes every once in a while that gets some Twitter folk riled up. But we're going to get some insight onto the Bruins' struggle so far early this season, and the Islanders obviously just took care of them. And before we dive into that, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing real good. 5-1 win the other day in my house league game, so I'm ready to go.
House league, ugh.
It is what it is.
You got to talk it up a little more than house league. You got to say, oh, it's the hardest men's division in Long Island. That way people think you're good.
All right, you said it for me. All right, let's move on. Let's not distract anymore. There's 5 games on tap for today. First one's Oilers, Toronto. Should be fun, but let's dive right into Islanders hockey before our interview with Jimmy Murphy, because we'll be talking about their play against the Islanders, the Bruins. So Islanders escaped, Brendan, with a 1-0 victory over the Bruins. They're outshot 2017-17. Pajot, a baseball bat swinging in, and pretty much that was the only offense for the Islanders the whole game. Varlamov extends his shutout streak to 120 minutes, the best start of his career. He passes Rick DiPietro, I think, was at 115 minutes and change. So he's in the record books twice, the playoff streak and now this streak, and he's been unreal. I know we got hurt before Saturday's game. Question if he played that game, how would it have gone? But back-to-back shutouts, he's a clear number one guy right now.
Yeah, the last Islanders goalie to have a streak like that, as you mentioned, was Rick DiPietro, and as soon as that streak ended, he never played again. The Rangers, I think, would have won the game regardless because the Islanders didn't play well game 2. But I love the way Varlamov is playing so far, and he's on my fantasy team, so I'll take the back-to-back shutouts. Really helps me out there. But he really looks confident in goal. And the Islanders seem to play well in front of him. They didn't play well in front of Sorokin. So you wonder if, Trotz rides him a little bit, but that's not really Trotz's style anyway. I think that the Islanders are a team that will bounce back. They just had one rough night. We've seen it around the league that big teams have a couple of bad nights. The Flyers laid an egg against the Sabres the other day before bouncing back and winning, similar to what the Islanders did. So that's going to be the way of the league so far, and Varlamov looks great.
I mean, the biggest problem for the Islanders right now is their offense. They're averaging 1.67 goals per game, but the biggest thing is it's against the Rangers, it was non-existent. Against the Bruins, it was really non-existent. It was going to come down to, is Varlamov going to make that real key save in that big moment? And the whole entire night he did. The defense was pretty good. I know they allowed 27 shots on goal, but they blocked, I think, 20 shots again. They're averaging 19 blocks a game. I have a crazy stat here, too. They're averaging not only 19 blocks a game, 29 hits per game. I mean, they're just taking the body on everybody, and hitting the players all the time means you probably don't have the puck. At the end of the day, they don't, and it's true. And my biggest concern is when Barzal is non-existent on the ice, if this offense does nothing. It's one thing to not score. All right, the top line is not going to score every game. Mm-hmm. You saw Barzal in game 1 against the Rangers. He was all over the rink. You knew he was there, but against the Rangers, you had no idea. And against the Bruins yesterday, it was like, where is Barzal? Because Barzal doesn't have to score. He's got to create and generate. The Islanders struggled to generate offense. Every line did. I know Ross Johnson and Bells on that third line played about 6.5 minutes the whole game. Pajot got time on the power play, penalty kill, and he even played some shifts on that top line. So it comes down to, can this Island team find a way to score? Because Varlamov could only keep this up so much. But we saw what happened in the playoffs. When his streak ended, the floodgates opened a little bit because that's a lot of pressure. Now, granted, we're going into game 4 of the season when they play tomorrow night against New Jersey. And that's a huge matchup for the Islanders because, they handled the Bruins, the Devils. They lost one game in a shootout. They won another one. And it's just which goalie is going to outplay the other because Blackwood just had a great game against the Rangers. We'll get to later. But when you rely heavily on your goaltender having to make those saves, look at the Canadians. This is like the same thing with Carey Price where he's so dominant. But there comes a time where your offense has to score. Now, granted, the Islanders are giving up 1.67 goals per game. That's amazing. That's great. That's what this team's supposed to do. But you're only scoring 1.67 goals a game, and your power play hasn't looked great since that opening night game, and it was 2 for 7 or 2 for 8, whatever it was, which statistically looks great. But now you're going games without scoring. And it's unfortunate because this Islanders team, you got to take advantage of these games. Boston, they snuck away with one, but it was not a great performance at all.
No, it wasn't. And going into this game against the Devils, I look at two things. One, the Islanders can't score. They can't produce offensively. They had one goal in their win. They got shut out the game before that. They went 6 periods without scoring a goal before that one Pajot bounce. And I mean, great play by him to bat that puck out of midair. But I have concerns, and I've talked about these concerns since before the season started about their offensive production and potential, because so much of it falls solely on Barzal's shoulders, and I don't think he's capable of carrying an offense like that. I think he needs help, and that's not a knock against him. And most people do need help, especially when it comes to the NHL. And when you look at Blackwood, how he just played, how the Devils have kind of locked down defensively. I know the Islanders have a great defense and shut down the Bruins, but the Devils were doing the same exact thing. So if they could do that to the Islanders don't have the high-end talent to break through that kind of defensive thing. And if the Devils get an early lead like they did against the Rangers, they're going to win that game. And I don't believe that the Devils are going to be this good all season. I think that they're young too, so they're going to have their rough stretch, but they're playing really well right now. Lindy Ruff has them on a grind, and they're getting contributions from Miles Wood. They're getting contributions from Jack Hughes. I think he's got 5 or 6 points already this season. So if these young kids start to play like that, they're going to be a hard team to play against game in and game out, and they're doing exactly what the Rangers hope to be doing, and the Rangers aren't doing it.
It's all about possession. You look at the Devils, and Jack Hughes could dominate. He dominated against the Rangers because he had the puck. The offense had the puck for majority of that game until the Rangers pushed back. But for the Islanders, it's not even that they're not scoring offensively. They just don't have the puck. The other teams are playing keep away, and again, we see all these hits racking up, and that's great. But if you have to see a high hit total, that usually means you do not have the puck. And even guys like Brock and there's no one is creating. I always, hated when I saw Brock Nelson try to do that extra move to create something, because you have one of the best releases on the team, if not the best. Shoot the puck. But now you're sitting in the offensive zone, and I want him to make that move. Create something. Try to create something, because right now the Islanders look lost offensively, and I get it. Defense is their system, but you have to put the puck in the net to win. And in a tough division like this, you have to take advantage. The Devils aren't a great team coming into the year. Now, granted, they're playing a lot better than people expected out of the gate, and it's because they're a young team. No one really knows their identity. You got Yegor Sharangovich scoring in overtime. You got guys picking up the slack. Subban actually looks pretty good out there, shooting the puck well. Blackwood looks like the number one goalie he's supposed to be. Can they keep it up? We'll see. But the Islanders have to go in and show that they could score, put up 3 goals. I'm not asking for a 5-goal performance, but the lack of scoring is just going to put way too much pressure on this defense, and then it's going to come down to, we saw last year, when Johnny Boychuk got hurt originally, when the fourth line was banged up, when Pelech got hurt, there was a stretch. They had they were on the road for a couple of games, and they got absolutely killed. And it wasn't that the defense was playing so bad. It was the fact that it was building up over time that the offense was not scoring at all. The pressure was coming from the defense to have to score and play their structured defense. They were failing to do their structured defense. They're handling too much. And then you saw Thomas Greiss and Varlamov getting lit up. And it all trickles back to not scoring. It's too much pressure on this defense. This is a defense that is missing a lot of key players from last year. Boychuk's gone. Taves is gone. You got Dobson, looked terrible against the Rangers. He looked a lot better against Boston, but there's a lot of pressure here. And I know, one of the good things from this game is that Martin got his 3,000th career hit in game 695, which, that's his job. Create momentum. The problem is he's creating momentum, and it's just stopping.
Yep.
There's you got to continue the pace of play. And at the end of that game, the Bruins pushed. They pulled Tuukka Rask. Tuukka Rask played well. It wasn't on him at all. It's just the Islanders are so good when they have a lead. And granted, they got a lead from Pajot. That was a huge goal because the Islanders sadly were not. I don't think they were going to score that game. I really think it was going to come down to going to overtime or maybe a shootout and having to rely again on Varlamov. And Varlamov played great. There was a few times where he lost it a little bit, but he's playing really sharp. Again, though, it's just not sustainable over even a 56-game season, let alone an 82. You have to put the puck in the net. And if you're not going to do it, we saw Kiefer Bellows hit the taxi squad today. Does Oliver Wahlstrom come in and try to create? Does he get an opportunity here? Because Josh Bailey wasn't in practice today. It's a maintenance day, we believe. Trotz said something about Bailey is close to returning, so that makes me seem to think there's something else going on. So if he can't play, who comes in? Not that Bailey's your goal scorer, but in the past has shown that he could set up plays. Trotz has to switch up the lineup now and find something, because this third line, with Pajot is your only offensive weapon on the third line. He was the only offensive weapon in the game against the Bruins. Now you take away his, Josh Billy's not playing. Do you move Pajot up? If you move Pajot up to that second line, let him play in the wing. Put Leo Komarov centering that third line. But that's Bellows, Komarov, and Ross Johnson's not going to help you on offense. The fourth line's not going to really create offense. They're going to forecheck like hell. That's what they usually do. I got to see some offense, because if they don't score, we're going to see another mediocre year like we saw last year, where it's, all right, that's defense is all we got. And Grant, if they could sneak into a playoff spot, it'll pay off because their offense did come alive. But your offense is healthy this year. So that's no longer an excuse to not score.
Their second line was so dominant in the postseason. They've been non-existent.
I have not seen – it's crazy. The amount of non-existence I'm seeing from players that Beauvillier always – doesn't matter how bad the team plays. You always see Beauvillier doing something, getting an icing called off because he's working his butt off to get there, making plays in the corner, making great passes. You just have not seen anything from the second line besides Brock Nelson scoring an open night, which was on the power play. It wasn't even strength. It was an extra man when he was alone in the slot and buried one. But besides that,
they're regressing. Team-wise, they're regressing. They might still make the postseason, but they're getting older. They've never added offensive talent. They've just benefited from some career years from a couple of their guys, and then they've awarded them with ridiculous contracts after. So there's no way that they can get better. They might be Stanley Cup contenders this season, but there's no one that, if you're looking at a Eastern Conference Finals matchup on paper, you're not going to pick the Islanders over the Flyers right now. Even though they beat them last year, I still don't hold that much account to that. And I think that if the Flyers are going in as hot as they were last year before the hiatus, I don't think anybody in the East is going to beat them, not even Tampa Bay. And then I look at the West, and I see the two juggernauts out there, and then I see even how St. Louis still looks without Pietrangelo, and there's a couple of teams. I don't see anybody, the Islanders, being able to score with them in a playoff series. And granted, they'll frustrate the hell out of them, and they might make it a battle, but they can't score. It hurt them against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay didn't score a lot. They just scored 2, and the Islanders couldn't score more than 2. So I see the same thing happening this year. And if their second line doesn't produce at all, you're at a loss.
You are, and I think it's time we see Wahlstrom come in, because Kiefer Bellows could, he had 8 hits on opening night. He doesn't play a lot of minutes, but he's doing exactly what Michael Dowd-Cole did. He's a scorer by, on paper, and we've seen what he done in the past in the juniors, AHL, everything, the World Juniors. Kiefer Bellows is a goal scorer, but he's not showing you that he can score at this level right now. Dowd-Cole was a top 5 pick in the draft. He can't score. And now you're looking at, all right, hopefully Wahlstrom can come in here and score, because, again, we talked about it, where you want to get rookies playing time, but this is a year where it's a shortened season, and if they don't produce, you can't waste time. But the problem is the Islanders don't have enough scoring depth to put another guy. Leo Komarov come into the lineup and play third-line minutes. He's not scoring goals. They need goal scorers. They don't need bottom players to just do the little things. They already have that. I think Ross Johnson played really well the other day. I think he's played well, but he's not a goal scorer. Pajot's a goal scorer. But with Ross Johnson on his wing and Bellows, they weren't creating anything. Pajot was doing what he could from the opportunities he was making for himself. He was in the right position on that shot by Pelech. It wasn't his teammates doing much. He was in the right spot. He made a play. Other people on the Islanders have to step up and make a play, or it's going to be a rough season. The defense, goaltending is great. Defense wins championships. But not if you don't score a goal and you lose 1-0 every time. I mean, they got lucky against Boston, and hopefully against the Devils, they figure out they score a couple, because they need confidence right now. And we'll get to Jimmy Murphy when he comes on. The Bruins are looking at the same thing, where they need confidence as well.
Yeah, I mean, these are the types of teams that once they get on a roll, we've seen what the Islanders can do. But I'm not entirely sure that the Islanders this year can get on a roll like they did last year. As far as Boston is concerned, yeah, they can get on a roll. We know the high-end talent they have, and once Pasternak comes back, that's still a very scary team. When we come back from this commercial break, Jimmy Murphy is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about the Bruins, how they match up with the Islanders, and going forth in this East Division. Then we're going to dive into some Rangers hockey, some league news, so stay with us.
Hey everybody, it's Brendan here. Do you have old jerseys? What about old hockey equipment? Rather than throw these items out, our friends over at Alternate would love to have them. This nonprofit converts jerseys into reusable face masks, the same face mask the New York Rangers wore in the bubble this past postseason. The old equipment you donate will be given to less fortunate children throughout the state. It doesn't matter what team you root for. Let's all come together to make a difference and grow the sport of hockey. To learn more, head to alternate.com. That's alternate.com.
All right, we're back here at the back check, and a lot of heated stuff about the Islanders. There's only 3 games in. Both the Islanders and Rangers are only 3 games into their season. There's a lot to take away from those 3 games from both sides, good, bad, and a lot of ugly too. So, I mean, in the East, man, it's not the team at the top that we thought. Oh, the Flyers are at the top. It's not the teams at the top that we thought it would be right off the bat, with the Devils sitting there ahead of the Bruins, Rangers, and all those guys. But it's still as competitive as we thought. I think the Flyers have 6 points in first, and then the Rangers and Sabres have 2. So that spread, I obviously 1 through 8 will be a little bit wider, but I don't expect that much of a gap between the clutch of 1 through 6 playoff teams.
I mean, we're seeing right now where in the entire NHL that anyone could go against anyone and pick up a game. We saw Detroit play Columbus pretty well, and it's fun to see. But in this East, like we said, it comes down to the last game of the season to determine something. I don't see. There's no. If the Devils are going to play like this, that's just another team to add to this mix, because I don't think it's fair to knock them out. I don't think it's fair to say that they can't keep this up. They've been playing great under Lindy Ruff. The team seems to come together after the PK Subban fight, and not that it's scary. I mean, the Devils did scare me against the Rangers. For people that were betting, I was, hesitant because, you don't know what this Devils team. You don't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, because they look like a legit team that could compete, not Stanley Cup bound, of course. Instead of a lot of young pieces, but they look scary. They're a scary team to play against because you don't know.
Yeah, you never know. And the way Hughes is playing, I mean, he can carry a team. We've seen how good he could be. Last night, I don't know if you want me to get into the Rangers rant now.
While we wait, just because we'll wait for him to come up and go right into it.
All right. So last night, the Rangers have Capo Caco on their team, and he had a great first period. He was buzzing all around. Hughes wasn't really that loud in the first. And the second period, he played like a minute and a half. And there was a couple of penalties, a couple of power plays, so I get that. He's not on the power play units. That's a separate issue. Don't ask me why. But you got to get him out there if he's playing like that. And then to make things worse, you have all this hyped up rivalry, and then there's an additional rivalry between the 1 and the 2 pick. And Hughes and Caco really haven't played each other because Hughes missed most of the meetings last season. So what does Trouba do? Trouba fires a shot right off his shin pad, gives him a breakaway, he scores. And I'm sitting there. This isn't, a rookie defenseman. He made the cardinal sin of defense. Cardinal sin is when you pick your head up, there's a guy coming at you. You can't shoot it off his shins because it just fires the other way. And he did it. And he looked terrible doing it. And Georgiev couldn't stop a beach ball last night. And the first goal was on him. The Jack Hughes first goal was on him too. You got to catch a puck. It was 2 shots off his glove. That is on Trouba. The next goal is on Trouba too. But we got our guest here, and we'll dive into that in a second.
Cool down, Brendan. Joining us now is Jimmy Murphy of Boston Hockey Now. Jimmy, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
We are doing
well.
Good. So we'll dive right into it. Through the first 3 games, the Bruins have yet to score a 5-on-5 goal. Do you think it's as simple as scoring 4 or more goals in a game to just get this offense going, or is there a lot more to their struggles?
It's a mixed question there, because I think, a lot of people are wondering why Don Sweeney didn't do something about this before the season began, because it was pretty well known and well documented for the last 2 to 3 years that they've had secondary scoring issues. And then you take away Torrey Krug from the back end, who really provided offense there and moved the puck up ice like no one else. So I think that, they decided they were going to go with what they had. I'm just wondering how soon do they reconsider that right now. And yeah, of course, if they go out tomorrow night against the Flyers in their home opener and they pop in 5 goals, and a guy like Jake DeFrost maybe gets 2 of those and gets the monkey off his back, then who knows? But the problem is a guy like Jake DeFrost and so many other secondary forwards seem to have that monkey living on their back for the past few years. And I think the main thing is eventually they're going to have to go external to get some scoring help, should they choose.
Who do you think they would go out and get? Who's your guy that you think could help this club right now?
Well, interesting, right? I mean, I say, they need secondary scoring up front, but I'm of the belief that really it all starts in the back end. And I think that's kind of where they're trying to model their team right now. They brought in those young D guys who are, naturally good puck movers, but obviously are raw as well and don't have much experience. So it's a tough choice here. He's targeting a second line right wing, which I know they really want. And I think that you should also mention as we speak about this, it pops in my head here. Bruce Cassidy just told us today that he doesn't know when Andre Todd is coming back, and they're still terming it as an upper body injury. But let's call it spade and say the guy's most likely to have a concussion. He's had a concussion history, so this isn't good news for neither the Bruins or Andre Todd in his career. He just hasn't really been able to get it going here because of injuries since he arrived last February, and maybe that makes Sweeney look more up front there. They are satisfied right now with the way the young guys are doing. So based on those two factors, I would say that he's looking for scoring help up front. But, are we talking, is he going to try and pull off a mega deal and go out and get Pierre-Luc Dubois or Patrick Laine? I don't know that the Bruins have the assets in their arsenal to get that right now. I really don't. Unless they're really stripping your current roster and giving away your best prospect is Jack Studnicka, who I think to them right now is untouchable. So he's going to have to look for somebody on a different tier than those guys. And, who's out there right now? They had a chance to get Mike Hoffman, and they let St. Louis go ahead and do that. I don't know. What is the answer? I don't think anyone knows that right now for the Boston Bruins.
Well, you speak about their defense, and it's impressed you. What can you say about these young guys? Because, they lose Chara and they lose Krug. And I know Chara with age, but he's still a reliable defenseman. Krug's a great puck-moving defenseman. They're allowing 1.67 goals against, which has been great. Tuukka's played a big part, so has Halak. But what have you seen from this young defense?
Well, what I've seen is actually what I didn't expect. Like I said, I felt like, a guy like Lauzon or Zaboro, and even if they eventually use Vaakanainen, all guys that I think are good at moving the puck. But I wasn't expecting how good they've been in their own end. And I think Jeremy Lauzon is the best example of that right now, playing up there with Charlie McAvoy in the top pairing. And I'm not putting him anywhere near the level of Zdeno Chara. Let's get that out of the way. But what he is doing is providing that physical element, providing that stay-at-home guy to kind of lean back and allow Charlie to pinch and produce more offensively. So I think it's been a good blend there up front. And then, I'll give Zabor credit. I'm not the biggest fan. I think he was not a good draft pick for where the Bruins took him in 2015. And of course, we could dissect that whole draft of Bruins in over 3 episodes with how bad they botched that. But I get a lot of reports from scouts, that watched him closely in Providence, and they're not too high on him. That being said, he has been better than what those scouting reports had said. So I think that's a good thing. And I think Matt Grzelcyk is really stepping up into the role of I don't think he's going to replace Torrey Krug. I think the Bruins can realize that, and that may end up being one of their biggest mistakes, that nobody will replace him. But he's giving him the best to have there in terms of power play quarterback, and also just being a guy that's going to shoot more right now and really push it offensively.
Is Grzelcyk healthy after, getting hurt in the Islander game? Is he okay?
It's interesting. He told us today that he said it wasn't actually something that and let's call it spade. I don't care. Islanders fans are going to get pissed off, but and I know he's a clean player, but that was a slew foot in my eyes, and I didn't like that play at all. I'm surprised it's not getting more attention in the league, or it didn't. It never will now, obviously, but I think that was a slew foot. But he said his injury wasn't a result of that. That just re-aggravated it. So he conveyed to us that there's something nagging that he's been dealing with, and that just kind of upset it a little more. But he's been fine in practice today. He feels he's good to go. Cassidy feels he's good to go. I think for official purposes, they said he's a game-time decision, but he'll play tomorrow against the Cubs.
All right, so we saw the New Jersey Devils give the Bruins all they could handle, really, in the first 2 games of the season, and it was kind of a surprise. Do you attribute the Bruins' start to just the Devils coming out and being impressive and, kind of surprising them and taking them aback, or do you think that the Bruins kind of came out slow and sluggish out of the gate?
Oh, I'm going to give it to the Devils here. And I think maybe the one thing I'll say about the Bruins, and much like a lot of media and fans alike, thought coming into the season that the Devils were going to be maybe, and the Sabres too, but more so I think the Devils people thought was going to be the cakewalk. That's the automatic 2 points we have in this division. Through that, this is the toughest division in hockey right now. hands down. And anyone that says otherwise is not really paying attention to the game. This is the toughest division right now. And let's not forget that the Devils are 2 years removed from playoffs, okay? And now they got a PK Subban coming back with probably the biggest chip on his shoulder we've had since he was traded to Nashville. All right, he's motivated, and it's really shown in his play. He's locking up the minutes, and he's really becoming a valuable asset for Lindsey Ruff on the blue line. And then you got a guy like Miles Wood, who all of a sudden is trying to be the next Tom Wilson. And he can chip in offensively, and he can drive the opponent nuts, and he can play dumb when he rushes the goalie and he can get away with it. Devils and Jack Hughes. Let's not forget what he did last night against the Rangers. So he's starting to look bigger out there. So there's no easy team in this division. Maybe the Bruins were a little guilty of that. I don't think so, because I saw them play a very structured game. I think it just goes back to what we started this conversation off with their scoring woes. But give the Devils 100% credit there. They've stepped up, and I like what I've seen from them right now.
Yeah, so you talked about the East and how loaded it really is from 1 to 8. There is no easy game because even if the Sabres look like they're struggling, they still got some offensive talent there. So how do you think it's going to shake up? Do you think it's going to be that close from top to bottom? And that I know that over the first 2 games, we saw a lot of splits. We saw a lot of close battles. Do you think we're going to see that throughout the 56-game season?
I do. And it's going to be interesting, what teams kind of, if you're a betting person or something. I do a handicapping show now, guys, called the Ice Shot. We're always trying to read the trends, and it's kind of interesting to look right now. It's very even split as to what teams are more defensive and what teams are going to cost. You put the Caps and Penguins together for the last 15 years. We know they're going over. We know they're But now maybe you put the Devils and the Bruins together, or the Islanders and the Bruins together. Get some caffeine in you because you need to fall asleep, because this is going to be a very defensive struggle. So I think both ways, if they're trading goals or they're trading hits and goaltending, I think it's going to be a very tight division. And I'm looking forward to it, guys. I love the fact they're playing each other, 8 times a year. I think we've already seen the bitterness grow between these teams, and it's only going to get better as we go on.
Last question from us. So Derek Pastrnak's out, obviously, and he's a big loss. But, hockey's not one of those sports where it's dictated on one player. But what is his loss showing you about the Bruins team and about their power player, about setting up in the zone on that top line? How big of a loss is he? And when he comes back, do you think it'll be right back to what we saw last year?
Well, ironically, I would have said coming into this season, guys, when I knew he wasn't going to be around until probably February, that, the power play would suffer the most. And then, we go back to what I said about Torrey Krug leaving, that would have been the biggest thing. But they seem to miss him more on 5-on-5 right now. They've got guys that can rotate in and out on that power play. I think Krejci's a very underrated weapon there when it comes to their power play. But, you look at them 5-on-5 right now when it comes to strict matchups, and they just don't have a right wing that, unfortunately, and I hate to be blunt, but just can't match the intelligence of Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand and compete with or keep up with that, so to speak. And that we're seeing that on the ice right now. They're not finding a chemistry there. Jake DeBrusk, who I think can be a 30-goal scorer if he really found consistency. I don't know if he's ready to be on that line, but he has no choice right now. So he's going to have to step up and make that happen there. But that's where I think they miss him more 5-on-5 than they do on the power play.
Awesome. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Murphy's Law 74. Pleasure. Hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah, to everybody in New York, stay safe, guys. Happy hockey.
Thank you. Have a good one. Well, the Boston Bruins have had a ton of issues, and Pastrnak's been, they don't score 5-on-5, and Pastrnak's loss hurts, but we know in hockey that it's not all about one guy. It's got to be other guys stepping up. I want to go back to one point before we get back into your Rangers talk about the Matt Grzelcyk play with Eberle. Now, this play happened in the Bruins, obviously, in that game. Eberle was coming up the boards after the puck was dumped in, and it's a race to the puck pretty much, where it's going to be an icing, a fast break, and Grzelcyk steps in front of Eberle. Penalty arm goes up, and Eberle tries to get around Grzelcyk and gets stuck, and he sticks his right foot out, or his left foot, trips Grzelcyk up. Now, it didn't get a lot of attention. Right off the bat, all Islander fans were probably wondering why Eberle was getting called. You watch when Butch Goring agrees with a replay, penalizing your team, you know it was a penalty. And it was a penalty. Now, I'm not sure if I agree with Jimmy there about how it should be looked into more. I don't think he was intentional. I think he was just the way his body moved trying to get around. He stuck his foot out. But at the same time, if Matt Grzelcyk, a very underrated defenseman, has a lingering issue and that re-aggravated it, this Bruins team can't afford to see guys on defense go down when they've been helping to contribute to offense and their defense has been so locked down. And they don't have a lot of depth guys to play. Their depth's there. Like they're young guys are in the lineup now. You don't really have many more options now that might have to, go get somebody, waiver pickup. But unfortunately, Grzelcyk's okay. But getting Kasi back is big. And hopefully not hopefully, we're Islander Ranger fans. We hope this Bruins team struggles finally for the rest of the season. But I don't see this 5-on-5 lack of goal scoring keeping up that much longer. Once they figure it out, once they find the right piece on that top line, they'll start scoring goals.
But it's the same thing as the Islanders. It's not about their top line. It's about their lack of offensive help from their defense right now. The Islanders don't have a two-way defenseman that can really contribute to the offense at the same rate that some teams do, right? I mean, you look at the Rangers, they have D'Angelo when he's in there. They have Adam Fox who could do it. The Islanders don't have that. The Bruins right now, without Torrey Krug, don't have that either. They look towards McAvoy to, these guys to do it, but who knows if they can? And like you said, if there's lingering injuries, who knows if anyone can do it? So we'll see when Pastrnak comes back. If he can, I think he will play a huge role in boosting their offense, but I don't think he's going to cure all their woes by just coming back. So there's a lot more things there. Andre Kasha is a very good player. Yeah. And I think that he's very underrated in this league because he was kind of hidden in Anaheim. But if he can come back healthy, that will definitely help their depth a little bit, because right now that they're putting out a bunch of younger guys on their second line, third line that really can't produce.
Yeah, so I know your rant was cut off, but let's get back to your thoughts pretty much about the Rangers in their last game against the Devils last night, which again, the Rangers dominated pretty much the second and third period, looked lost in the first, and take it away, Brendan.
Well, they looked good the last 9 minutes of the first period. I think after that point, it was all Rangers. That wasn't even my rant. That was just me stating facts about Jacob Trouba being a horrendous contract right now, and the fact that they gave him $8 million to shoot the puck into a rookie's shin pads is utterly absurd to me. And my favorite part of that whole game yesterday is that David Quinn's remedy to some of the defensive problems they had was to put Trouba together with Jack Johnson, it's just like, I mean, come on. You want to talk about some head-scratching moves? That's called being a boneheaded coach. And that is one of the worst decisions I think I've ever seen. But he topped it today during practice when he decided to keep Johnson in the lineup and scratch Smith, who he's played more in the last two games over Jack Johnson. Brendan Smith has a point and is a +4 in those two games, while Jack Johnson has no points on the season and is a -2. So Jack Johnson looks completely horrendous out there every time he steps on the ice. He looks like the Rangers went to the junior Rangers team and said, hey, we got some injuries. We need a guy to fill in. You got a kid? He shot a puck yesterday from the point that went so far wide, I thought somebody might have thrown something into his eyes. I thought he might have been blind for about 5.5 seconds. That's how wide the shot went. He wound up from the point and dumped it into the corner. And he wasn't dumping it in, let me tell you. He was ripping that towards the goal. Mackenzie Blackwood looked and said, do I need to go over there to stop pucks now? Because that's how wide this shot was. He's horrendous. He is terrible.
Brendan Smith.
Catch your breath for 1 second. We have some bigger news to announce.
Oh, what happened?
Josh Bailey is on the COVID list.
Oh, that's not big news. He sucks anyway.
No. All right, relax. Okay, first off, this is a problem because who else is exposed? He's the only one on the list right now, which is good that he didn't come to practice today. But that is the reason for his absence at practice, which means I doubt he'll play tomorrow. We'll get into that a little bit after. Continue, Brendan.
So Jack Johnson stinks. I think we've got that point across.
Yeah.
He should not be playing. Brendan Smith has actually looked very good.
Yeah.
And I said about a month and a half ago when I went on the Hockey Writers Live, which I'll be going on again after this to talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois of the Rangers, that he is going to bounce back now that you're giving him solid defensive reps. The Rangers putting him on offense and defense and offense on defense kind of ruined his momentum and ability to get comfortable. He looks good in those two games. Him and Miller might have been one of their best pairings outside of Fox and Lindgren in the third period. So why take him out of the lineup now? It just doesn't make sense to me. And that leads to coaching, right? David Quinn We had a bad start in game 1, a bad start against the Devils. Now, it wasn't that bad of a start. Georgiev's got to make that save. If he makes that save, it's a 0-0 game going into the second period. It's a different story. But you look at what Quinn does to this lineup. Kakko has a great first period, doesn't really play in the second. These young kids are getting shuffled around every single game. Kakko is practicing with Howden and Di Giuseppe today in practice. That's the line he's on. Thank God Mika Zibanejad is healthy and can go on Friday, because if he goes out there with Howden, well, the only good news, if he goes out there with Howden, he's probably playing 15 minutes more than he does, because Brett Howden somehow gets 20 minutes a game for his otherworldly fourth-line minutes and fourth-line contributions. 9 points last season. Whoop-de-doo, let's give him 25 minutes a game. So the Rangers' inability to get anything going is not because of the lack of talent on the ice. It's because of an inability behind the bench. And there's a man by the name of Gerard Gallant out there who's a pretty good coach. And I think a lot of us remember how he took a Vegas Golden Knights team who had never played together to a Stanley Cup final. And I think a lot of us remember how William Karlsson, who had about 4 points the year before, all of a sudden became a 40-goal scorer. And how some of these young kids that they had, younger players, started meshing and going off. Ooh, doesn't that sound like an enticing option for a young Rangers team that has a lot of young talent that needs to mesh instead of David Quinn right now? Because it does to me. And I think that if we talked about with Dan Rosen, if he's going to be on the hot seat come the end of the season, and Dan Rosen said if they keep progressing, even if they miss the playoffs, I think he should be on the hot seat right now, because you do have a suitable replacement. If Gallant was hired and there wasn't a suitable replacement, I'd say give him time. But you have a better coach and a better option right now. And every other team in the division has made coaching moves to better their team. The Islanders brought in Trotz. The Capitals bring in Laviolette, right? Mike Sullivan been a godsend, and he was the Rangers' assistant coach. And instead of hiring him, they went with Alain Vigneault, who was a very good coach, and now he's on Philadelphia. So every team has bettered themselves coaching-wise. The Rangers got worse, and they're too slow to see that it's affecting them.
So okay, well, it was a great rant, Brendan. Bravo. I tried not to laugh as hard because as an Islander fan, this is just hysterical. But you would think from Quinn's background as a collegiate coach, where his job is to get young players to that next level, why is it such a problem?
Because now he's at that next level.
But he's at the next level. But he realistically can treat this Ranger team like he was coaching in college. He could.
What makes Barry Trotz so good?
Well, he's a veteran. He knows the game, and he has a system in place that he gets his players to play to.
Say that word again.
System in place that he gets his players to play to.
Okay. When the Islanders are struggling,
yeah,
how many lineup changes does he make?
He makes a ton.
He makes a ton. Does he push the right buttons?
Yep. The worst game I ever saw the Islanders play ever under Barry Trotz was Saturday night, and it will never happen again.
Exactly. And what they do, they bounce back, got to win, right?
Yep.
When the Rangers have a bad game, it tends to carry over. Now, that is in part due to a young team.
Yes.
It's also in part because their coach just shuffles everything. There's a difference between making a lineup change and saying, you had a bad game, we're going to insert. David Quinn did that, right? After the Islanders win opening night, he took D'Angelo out, made a lineup change. It worked. Great job. There's a difference between that and shuffling lines every single game to try to get production. If you have to shuffle your lines every single game, that means your lines aren't the right lines that you put together originally, or you have to give them a little bit of a chance to develop. You're not talking about Patrice Bergeron age players here. You're not talking about Islanders level age players here that have played together and are veterans. You're talking about kids who are all 22 years old and younger. Let them play together. Let them develop chemistry. Lafreniere didn't look bad in that first game. He was one of the only Rangers that actually had the puck and stood out a little bit. Right away, they put him up on a line. But that shifts his chemistry from what he was just developing with Edel. And it's like, this kid is 19 years old. Let him get his footing. Let him develop with somebody. Let him look at an Artemi Panarin now and say, you're my line mate. But no, I'm sure next game, if he turns the puck over once 5 minutes in, he'll be sent down to the fourth line so Brett Howden can get out there and play his 25 minutes a game.
Well, I think you nailed it on the head with the chemistry. If you don't give players time, like look at the Islanders. Fourth line doesn't need more time to build chemistry. They have that. The second line last year, chemistry. Top line's the same top line it was last year. Third line is the only line where they're trying to find missing pieces, and Trotz has to do what he has to do. For a guy like Lafreniere to come in, Ito, all these guys, how you keep changing it, you're going to hurt their development because they have to play. You know, when you were a player, I'm a goalie, we watch from different angles. But I mean, I think you would agree is you have to play a different game when you're with other people. If you're in a line with Panarin, you know he's going to dish the puck to you. You have more of a all right, I'm going to finish off a pass. When you're on another line, you might have to be that guy that creates and does the Panarin job. Now, you keep switching it. Not that these players are going to get confused. They're intelligent when it comes to the game of hockey. But if you have to keep switching what their roles are, how do they get settled into doing one thing right?
They don't. There's two things that – well, there's one thing left that I'll address that Quinn does wrong. We already talked about the mismanagement when it comes to shuffling. But when players are going well, regardless of whether they're Mika Zibanejad or Artemi Panarin level or Brendan Lemieux, he doesn't play them the rest of it's just weird how he handles his lineup. Capo Caco looks so good, and yes, there were penalties and power plays, and he's not on the second power play unit, which blows my mind because Brendan Lemieux's on it and Brett Howden's on it, and Capo Caco, your number 2 overall pick, isn't. It's amazing how the Devils used Jack Hughes throughout that game, and he scored twice. He rewarded them for it. Maybe if you use Capo Caco the same way, he'll reward you too, but they don't do that. He doesn't use the same player. Brendan Lemieux had a hell of a shift.
Oh, we got to
hell of a shift. All over social media is 2 blocks. Dead leg, everything, gets up, barely walking, dives and blocks another shot. Bench gets up, they're riled up, right? The shift after that, your first line has to go right out. Have to follow it up and get some momentum. The next shift, or as soon as he's able, Lemieux should be rewarded and going right back out there. And I don't think he did. And there's just certain things that it's just mind-boggling as a coach that he does it. And every single Rangers fan attributed their defensive woes to Lindy Ruff last year and said it's Lindy Ruff's fault, fire him. And he's now on a Devils team that allowed 1 even-strength goal in their first 3 games of the season, and they look very good defensively. Yes, they gave up 50 shots. A majority of those were from the outside. The Rangers couldn't beat them, and the Rangers defense still looks like grade A poop. It's terrible. It's just, and it's not the young players. The young players are their best players. The old players stink, and they play the old players the most. And if I'm David Quinn and I see Jack Johnson who can't cover somebody in front of the net on a power play or a penalty kill, put Keandre Miller out there. I'd rather him make that mistake and learn so that 15 years from now, when he's still one of your better defensemen, he's not making that mistake anymore. But no, we'd rather have Jack Johnson, who we gave $1 million to for 1 season, play every minute of a penalty kill. It makes no sense to me. We can't talk about the Rangers anymore. We're done with this for the day. It pisses me off. I went on a Twitter rant because it's not them losing. They outplayed the Devils.
They did.
It's the coaches losing games because they keep playing the same players who've shown their ineptitude for the last 2 seasons.
I mean, Jack Johnson shouldn't be on this roster, right? It shouldn't be playing. And granted, I agree with what you said because
Should be on an NHL team.
I think they were better. What about Vatanen?
Put Potato in.
Potato was running in practice after game 1, correct?
Only because it's D'Angelo. But if D'Angelo's in the game yesterday, taking the same shots Jack Johnson's taking, you think he's shooting it 25 feet wide?
No.
He's scoring. He scored 50 points last season.
No, I get the frustration with not scoring. I get that, but your issue is it's so funny how the Islanders and Rangers are different teams. One is offensive based, one's defensive based, but you have a same issue that they're not a full team. Both sides aren't operating. We saw the Islanders last year when they went on that great streak. Offense was scoring goals. They were playing shutdown defense. We saw in the playoffs, offense was scoring goals, shutdown defense until they faced Tampa, the juggernaut of the league. But for the Rangers, they have the offense. They just can't stop the puck from going in the net. And granted, it's early in the year. You have young guys on defense. But the biggest question mark for the Rangers was, can this defense take that next step in year 2 with the young guys they had? And
it has. There's just 2 players who haven't.
And that makes everybody look bad.
But the problem is one of those players can come out of the lineup. You can't take Trouba out of the lineup because you paid the guy $8 million, but you can take Jack Johnson out. He will do so much less damage watching from the press box. It would be amazing to see D'Angelo re-enter the lineup, who is not a defensive stalwart by any means, but he'll contribute offensively, and just watch how free and easy it is when Adam Fox doesn't have to hold back old man Johnson, or when Keandre Miller can just have some free and easy movement playing with Trouba and not have to worry about rotating lines every 2 seconds. Let them play and take Johnson out of the lineup. Smith has shown you he should be playing over Jack Johnson. Heck, the guy we were playing against last night in roller hockey showed us he should be playing over Jack Johnson. So take the guy out of the damn lineup, please. Please.
Let's go to some league news, Brendan, before you blow up. Let's get to some league news. So, NHL was using microchips in the pucks for, tracking and, creating a new analytics stuff that this league should be looking at to, improve the game, everything, coaching, whatever. But unfortunately, they are getting rid of that because it is affecting the puck on the rink. Do you buy that?
I mean, I buy it, sure. If this many people are complaining about it, they're seeing it more than we are. I think that it's a microchip in the puck, so I'm not entirely sure unless it's the way that they're putting the puck together.
Yeah,
I didn't even know they built pucks or whatever. I thought they just chopped rubber and said, "Here you go, freeze it." But we'll see. I guess if I watch a game now and the puck's not flopping all over the place, then yeah, I'll realize it was that.
But Austin Matthews was asked about this, and he said that, and I'm pretty sure this was said in all seriousness. He goes, "I think that's the reason I wasn't burying those chances, those passes across. I wasn't burying that." Do you buy that for the reason for Austin Matthews not scoring as many goals as he could? Because everybody in the league is dealing with the same puck. I don't buy that. Yes, it might not be sliding as fast. We've already seen amazing goals this year. It's not like you can't put the puck in the net.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But if somebody like Austin Matthews, who relies solely on quick release, can't settle a puck down, then yeah, it does help. It does hurt him a lot. Like we saw Bobby Ryan shoot a rolling puck. If you shoot a rolling puck, it could go in. Same way, but Mika Zibanejad had a one time yesterday that he kind of flubbed that went in.
You think it has to do with the microchip in the puck?
I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying we have seen a couple of like missed chances. Like I don't know if the puck was in the game last night. It might have been taken out. But I've never seen Mika Zibanejad miss a net like that in the third period.
We were talking about it. I hadn't either. But until someone had told me that there was something wrong with the puck, I didn't think about it. Like it wasn't so clear that, no, you're right. The puck is going 6 less miles an hour on the ice. This is what I don't understand. I don't know how pucks are made.
Did they put a microchip in, or did they put a lead pipe? Like I don't understand what they put in these pucks.
No, I'm reading microchip.
I don't get how I've seen microchips, right? You all take your SD cards or whatever they are out of your iPhone. They weigh like a feather. How is this slowing down a puck?
The only thing I could think of is that they had to put more rubber. How much is rubber? I don't understand. I get the issue. If the puck is slowing down, they're clearly doing something to the puck. If players and coaches and whatever are complaining about this, then yeah, but why? Our technology is so advanced that you're telling me that you have to change the way the puck moves, like baseball. If they would add a microchip to baseball, that's different because you're throwing it in the air and stuff like that. You probably have to change it, but this is gliding on a wet, frozen surface. This little microchip.
How does baseball track their technology?
I'm assuming it's a microchip. I assume it's the same way.
So why can't they? I don't get it. How do they have problems? Because I was all for this type of technology.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Forget the fact that it's so cool to see how fast these random shots are. I don't even think they showed it enough during the games when it was used because, like, I only saw 1 or 2 times where they said one player skating this fast or this shot was this. They should have a chart up in the top right that just shows every shot because that would be so cool to see who's shooting what.
Like pitch speed. After every pitch, you see how fast it is.
Correct. And I think that if the NHL has been pushing betting this year, I don't know if you've seen it, but on every single broadcast, there's some type of betting advertisement. That is a sick thing to put lines out. No other sport has it. Over under hardest shot of the game. Over under hardest pass. Over under fastest straightaway speed. You could do so many things. Over under hardest hit and get the velocity of the check.
Not anymore, Brendan.
Well, no, they're replacing it.
Yeah, they just got to figure it out. But let's move on to a great feel-good story. Bobby Ryan, who is a year removed from going through alcohol abuse and rehab, and he got a 1-year deal with the Red Wings. And, I want to be honest to get him. People were saying, he's done. This is it. This is, you're not going to get the Bobby Ryan. Well, he's got 4 goals on the year at the Red Wings. He becomes the first Red Wing in franchise history to have 4 goals in his first 3 games with the team. And this is a historic franchise, been around forever. Bobby Ryan it's just a great story to see him not even back playing the NHL healthy because that's the top. He's putting pucks in the net, and granted, is he going to score 30? Is he going to keep this up? Who knows? But Bobby Ryan is early on making the $1 million look like what a deal this was for Detroit. Again, Detroit's a team that had a great offseason. They have so many young guys they have to wait for, but they brought in veterans to help steer this franchise in the right direction. And Bobby Ryan's doing a great part, and it's great to see.
The Capitals just got fined $100,000
For what?
for COVID violations. Cites players in close contact and not wearing masks.
That's unfortunate. And we're going to get to that in a second with the Hurricanes, but just wrap up with Bobby Ryan. Brendan, do you think it's like determination? We've seen him score gritty goals. He's one of those guys that back in the day was a sniper, but he's getting in there right in front of the net, going to the dirty area. I know he scored a goal against Columbus the other way like that. I mean, what are you seeing from Bobby Ryan that allows you to think he can really contribute offensively this year?
Top flight minutes, and he's clean. Last year, he obviously was battling something. The year before that, he was obviously battling something.
Forever, he's been battling this.
So he was very good in Anaheim, right? He was good when he first came over to Ottawa, too. And he was obviously really struggling the last 2 years. He got healthy, and he played well at the end of the season, considering he didn't play at all, right?
He came back and got a hat trick.
He came back and got a hat trick, and he didn't play at all before that. So the fact that he was able to do that, and he still produced after that, I think that this is just a guy who's very talented, and he's getting another chance. He's playing top flight minutes in Detroit. He's on their power play. He's getting all this opportunity. And the guy's always had one thing that doesn't get old. It's a ridiculous release. And his one goal on national TV the other day when they played Columbus, right off the draw, he just picked the puck up and didn't even hesitate, ripped it. And Korpisalo, no time to get set. That's just a crazy release. And it doesn't matter how old and slow he gets. He's still going to have that release. Same way Ovechkin could slow down. He's still going to be able to shoot the puck. So I just think it's a very talented player getting another opportunity.
How about Keith Yandel? Continuing to keep his Iron Man streak alive. He's got 3 points in 2 games. His team is 2-0. I know they have another game postponed because of the Hurricanes with the COVID thing. Keith Yandel is giving the biggest FU to anyone that said that he does not belong to be playing on this back end, because you saw the emotion when he scored that goal. You wanted to hug him right there yourselves. You know, obviously COVID, masks, everything on. But, I mean, how can you not feel great for this guy? It's awesome to see a guy like this score and contribute.
Did you notice where he sallied?
Did not.
Right in front of the bench.
His bench.
He scored the half wall and skated directly towards the bench, screaming at the bench. And I think it's a message. He didn't say anything bad. He was hyped, but he was looking at somebody.
You should have been looking up at the suite.
He was looking right at Quenneville, saying, "You're not scratching me."
Should have looked at Quenneville and then did the Yager salute up to the suites. That would
have gotten him scratched.
And then we would have heard a great story on Spin Chickens about it. But one more thing before we get to the Hurricanes. Did you hear about Patrick Kane texting Joe Quenneville on accident?
No.
So he's trying to text the player Quenneville, and he texted his former coach on accident. And they said he talked like back and forth twice, and that was it. That's like texting your ex-girlfriend on accident, randomly through your phone, and now it's like an awkward where you have to have that conversation. But that's pretty funny to text your old coach. And I mean, granted, I don't think there's any hard feelings. We know how good Quenneville was with the Black.
There's hard feelings there.
But he got Patrick Kane. But you're in a team meeting or you're getting ready to do something with the team. You text the wrong Quenneville. That's funny. It's funny.
Are they related? I think they are, right?
John Quenneville is the player. I don't know. It's a very good question. We'll have to find that out and tune that out. But the biggest news, obviously, besides the Capitals being fined, besides Josh Bailey in COVID protocol, is Hurricanes games have been postponed till January 23rd. COVID, they I think have 5 players that were tested, and we should talk about this for a little bit. The NHL is a flaw. Now, you're seeing Bailey, you don't know what happened. You're seeing the Capitals get fined. You're seeing the Panthers couldn't play because of COVID, and everything's more cautious than I think actually positive tests. But the Hurricanes had an issue where they had players tested, and the league is not doing what the NBA is doing. The league is not doing rapid tests. They're doing you have to wait about 24 hours to get results. And I understand that because those rapid tests aren't accurate. And the last thing they want to do is rapid test, have someone come negative, everyone freaks out. Wait the 24 hours. The problem is players are getting tested, playing in a game. Like this is what happened with the Hurricanes early in the year. Jordan Staal played in a game after getting a test, found out the next morning or the next day that he in fact was positive. And now this creates a whole nother issue with, all right, now I got to do COVID tracing. Well, he was playing in a game. Anyone he went up against in the faceoff dot, anyone close contact, he might have infected. Now, I don't know what the numbers are now with the Hurricanes. I think it's still 4 or 5 players. But that's just on the Hurricanes. And then these other players getting tested, we might find out, okay, this guy's going to test positive. They have to wait. This just destroys the schedule that they're trying to build. They got to have these games at some point. Do you think the NHL is going to be forced into doing what the NBA is doing?
It's tough to say because they have a policy in place that they thought would work. So you got to think they're going to stick to it. I'm not sure. I really am not sure. I think that they should have done rapid testing to begin with. And then you could also do additional PCR testing 24 hours to see if the rapid test is inaccurate. But to just do a 24-hour test when they're playing every night is a little ridiculous.
And they have that travel where you have to wait 2 days before you play on the road, correct? That's their game plan?
It depends on the travel aspect of it. But, yeah, usually they're doing that. Like the Rangers have 2 days off because the Devils were coming in. And, yeah.
It's just, you don't want to see at all COVID take this season by storm because it took forever to get players back and to get the season going. But at the same time, it's all about the health and safety. You don't want to put anyone's life at risk because these players aren't in a bubble. They go home to their families now. That's another extra liability that you have. Like, I don't know how Josh Bailey got it. And that he's the only one makes me think that it happened on his own when he was home, when he went out, which he probably shouldn't be doing anyway. I'm not going to pretend like I know the situation. But if he's infected, I would have to think, or we're going to have to think, that news is going to break about another Islander having it or their game's getting delayed. Like right now, the Islanders are playing the Devils tomorrow.
Nobody knows with this thing, though.
Exactly.
I know people who got it and nobody in their family got it, and you're in close contact with them. So it's crazy. This thing's been around for what? Since March, and we still barely know anything about how many people can get it, who gets it. Our tests are still inaccurate. That just blows my mind. But hey, we still have a hockey season going on. We still got some news to talk about. When we come back from this commercial break, 30-second break, this date in hockey history, we always have some good ones, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Hey guys, Stefan here. Each night on Long Island, 180,000 residents will go hungry, 39% of which are kids who have no ability to control their situation. Our friends over at Long Island Hockey Co. are trying to help as many families as possible. Each hat sold on their website will provide 50 meals for food insecure Long Islanders. Head to longislandhockeyco.com and let's help the people in our community. All right, let's look back at this date in hockey history. We always seem to have, win streaks, amazing things. I don't think we have a win streak today, Brendan, but we do have some fun ones. I'll kick it off. On this date, what is today's date? The 20th in 1970.
That really gives everyone confidence listening that we got the right date for this.
We got the right dates, I can assure you. But on this date, 1970, Gordie Howe scores his 10th and final goal in an All-Star Game competition. His power play goal, 7 minutes and 26 seconds into the first period, proves to be the game winner in the Eastern Conference 4-1 victory against the Western Conference at St. Louis Arena. Chicago's Bobby Hull has a goal and an assist and is named the game's most valuable player. Now, we don't see every penalty now is a shootout. Penalty shot. But they took it seriously back then in these All-Star games, and Gordie Howe is an absolute legend. But Brendan, the next one, 1982, could go with that one, Wayne Gretzky.
Before I read this one, John Quenneville is Joel's nephew, courtesy of my father.
And he is on the Blackhawks?
Now he is. We watched him in Bing last year with the Bing Devils, yeah.
All right, so that makes sense. And, that's one letter off typing in the text. It happens to all of us.
Yep. All right. So in 1982, Gretzky becomes the first player in NHL history to have 12 hat tricks before the age of 21. He gets his 6th hat trick of the season and 12th of his NHL career when he scores 3 goals and has 2 assists in an Edmonton Oilers 8-6 victory against the St. Louis Blues at Northlands Coliseum. 12 hat tricks before
12. Okay, first up, there's a lot to break down here because 12 hat tricks in a career. Okay, do you know how many hat tricks Gretzky ended his career with? If you had to guess how many he scored, if he has 12 before the age of 21, how many does he have when he called it a career?
A lot.
50.
A lot.
50. He had 50 hat tricks. I don't even know what Ovechkin has right now. It is not anywhere close to that number. I'm going to look it up. Ovechkin, hat tricks, career. I guarantee it's maybe 7, 8. Let's see.
No, it's got to be a little more.
He has, yes, he's got 27.
Yeah.
But granted, he's 30-something. And Gretzky had it at 21. So I was a little off.
No,
but
Gretzky had 12 at 21, not 27.
he had 12 at 21. Yes.
Yeah.
And he finished with 50. That's absurd. Granted, okay, we always talk about the
He
goal.
was good at hockey.
No, he was, but at the same time, that's ridiculous. But
The next guy is pretty good at hockey, too.
in 1989, Mario Lemieux becomes the second player in NHL history to score 50 goals in fewer than 50 games. He joins Wayne Gretzky, who's done it 3 times. We know how good Mario Lemieux was. I mean,
He might have been better than Gretzky.
Are you?
I'm not even saying that.
Take?
No, it's not a hot take. If he didn't get sick and have what happened to him,
Yeah.
he was the only. I think that it's a pretty much a consensus thing that he might have been the only player, had he been healthy, that could have surpassed Gretzky. He was that good. He scored 5 different goals in one game, 5 different ways, right? Which, to me, he was also very good at hockey. In 2003, Patrick Roy of the Colorado Avalanche becomes the first goaltender in NHL history to play in 1,000 regular season games. Roy makes 29 saves in a 1-1 tie with the Dallas Stars at the Pepsi Center. We were talking about this.
Talking about this and how depressing it is to do that, hit that milestone, and the game is a tie. Come on, it probably would have been worse to lose in a shootout. I think I'd rather get the tie than a shootout loss. But to end it in a tie, oh, Grandpa, what happened in this day? Oh yeah. Who won? Nobody won. What do you mean no one won? Yeah, back then we just ended it.
You know what his teammates said to him when he told him that in the locker room, though, right?
What?
Should have had 30 saves.
It's true. That's true. That's what I remember growing up when I would play and I'd be like, yeah, Dad, 1 goal allowed. He goes, why don't you stop all of them? It's parents, right? Teammates and parents. Next, 2017. Vancouver Canucks center Henrik Sedin becomes the 85th player in NHL history with 1,000 points when he scored a goal at 5:50 into the second period of a 2-1 victory against the Florida Panthers. The goal comes when he takes a pass from his twin brother, Daniel Sedin, and beats longtime teammate Roberto Luongo. Henrik is the 35th player to get 1,000 points with the same team and 4th who was born in Sweden. This is a cool stat. First off, your brother attributes to it, and you score on Luongo, who, again, started with the Islanders, then went to the Panthers, then went to Vancouver, then back to the Panthers before he retired. But what a connection there with that stat.
I was watching this game when it happened.
Yeah.
And I just remember Luongo wasn't even mad. He was happy. So it was just really cool to see. It was just a crazy. I've always said playing with your brother might be one of the coolest things if you could do it and you're that close in age.
The fact that during that draft, when they went to Vancouver, they pretty much said, listen, you either take both of us or not. They always played together, and I don't think you will ever see that ever again where it's, yeah, we got to take both of you. It was if they were packaged. I don't think they live together. I don't think that's the case, but the houses are probably right next door.
Probably. I mean, hey, you're playing them next door on the same line, so
you would say the Gretzky brothers statistically are the most dominant duo in NHL history. But what the Sedins did for Vancouver and hockey, I mean,
well, there's a lot of good brothers that play.
Oh, they're completely, but they were Vancouver until they retired. It was sad because like they're done. That's it. They were so good at what they did, and the team. I mean, how long you have building chemistry with your brother? You know, it's one thing. Usually, when you grow up with brothers, they all play different positions. The Stahl brothers, you have 2 forwards, a defenseman. Subban's got a defenseman, a goalie. They have another defenseman, but they played. They were playing with each other, travel, whatever it was that they played in Sweden. I mean, you can't have more chemistry than those 2 brothers had.
No, definitely not. All right. On 2019, Jonathan Toews becomes the 12th player to score at least 20 goals in each of his first 12 NHL seasons when he scores 3 times for his 6th hat-trick of the Chicago Blackhawks 8-5 victory against the Washington Capitals at the United Center. He's the 4th member of the Blackhawks to do so, joining Kane and Hall of Famers Hull and Stan Mikita. Toews also has an assist on 2 goals for his 3rd 5-point game in the NHL. So similar to what Gretzky did.
It was similar. And for Taves right now, obviously he's not playing with it's an illness, correct? I think it's an illness.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about it, but what he has done for this Blackhawks organization, I know they're getting older. Patrick Kane, by the way, is still scoring beautiful goals, and he's never going to stop.
He's still very good at hockey.
There's
a lot of people who are just very good at the sport. I'm not one of them.
And this is why we're talking, and they play. But for Taves, I don't know if he goes down as one of the best captains in NHL history. I would put him there, but then again, I've only been alive since 1998.
I'm biased. There's somebody else that has that role, in my opinion.
Is it Brian Leach?
It's Mark Messier.
Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously there's different, but I mean, Jonathan Taves has led this Blackhawks team, and I feel this year would have been probably one of the most important years of being a captain because you had the high and lows, you had him dominance of the Blackhawks, and now you have a rebuild coming where he's still your captain, and to see if he could get out of the young players what he got out of Kane when they first came up together, what that unit made, and help build the next succession, pretty much because when he's gone, the guys there now are building to try to get Chicago back to being competitive. I think a captain now is very important to their development, and to not have him on the rink, it really, I don't think it hurts the development, but he would have been such an added plus to be a leader in that room.
Most definitely. They really miss him, and there's no question about it. Not even for his on-ice production, but like you said, his off of it. And their season went downhill as soon as they agreed to let Kirby Dach play in the World Juniors. I thought that was a mistake. I know people wanted to see Lafreniere go, but they made the right move, holding him back. And it's unfortunate what happened to Dach because it wasn't just like a 2-month injury. He's done for the year now because of it. So that coupled with Taves, and no one knows what's going on still. I don't know. At this point, he should just sit out this season, especially with what's going on with COVID. Just worry about himself, get better. It's not like the Blackhawks are going anywhere with how they look so far. So just worry about your own health, come back next year, and go from there.
All right, I'm going to put me and you on the spot here because the puck has yet to drop in any of the games tonight. So you have 7 o'clock, Oilers, Leafs, 9 o'clock, Sharks, Blues, 9:30, Wild, Ducks, 10 o'clock, Canadians, Canucks, and another 10 o'clock game, Coyotes, Vegas. We're going to do our picks right now, Brendan, in the last couple of minutes here. Edmonton, Toronto. Edmonton's 1-3, Toronto's 3-1. Who are you taking?
Give me Edmonton tonight.
I will disagree and take Toronto. I do not. The goaltending for Edmonton has been abysmal, and their defense has struggled, and Toronto scores. I'm taking Toronto all the way. Granted, we know how everything can change. It's hockey. Any team can beat any team every night. You have Matthews versus McDavid, but I think Leafs. Next game, Sharks at Blues. Sharks are 1-2. Blues are 2-1. I'll go first. I'm going to take the Blues again. The Sharks are just too easy of a team to play against. Now, their goaltending is, again, been brutal. We talked about it earlier. I think they have, like dumber for goaltending because Jones has been terrible the last couple of years. Dubnyk was terrible last year. Now you put him on a team, you think one of them could, take that starting job, but it's, all right, who's going to be less worse tonight? And it's just been bad.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I'll take the Blues.
Okay, fair enough. Wild at the Ducks. Wild are 2-1. The Ducks are 1-1.
I don't like taking this one without looking at anything. Give me the Wild.
Are you thinking about starting goalie to look at? Is that your biggest concern?
Starting goalie to see how they've played in the past. If I'm going to pick, I like to do a little bit of recon, but give me the Wild just because straight up I think they have a little more talent on their side.
I was going to take the Wild as well. I think this guy Kaprizov is just – when you think about players to watch in this league, you know the top guys, of course, but this guy is must watch. He just looks like an elite player in his first year. It's great to see. Next game, Canadians 2-1 at Vancouver 1-3-0. Canadians look to stay undefeated in regulation. Who do you have in this one?
I picked the Canucks to win this one tonight. I think that with how we've seen the NHL go so far this season, Montreal's due for their regulation loss, and the Canucks were plus like 110 when I saw them. So I took the Canucks. I actually bet them tonight, so I'm sticking with that.
I'm going to take the Canucks as well. I just think we talk about streaks all the time, and with the way this season is operating, it's going to be so hard to just play bad teams and beat them. And Montreal's not a bad team at all. Vancouver is, they're not playing great out of the gate, but they have offense as well. So I agree with you. I think Vancouver takes this one. Last game on the schedule, Coyotes 1-1 at Vegas, who is undefeated, first time in their history, which is not that long, of course, but they are 3-0 to start a year.
They're going to be 4-0.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're going to be 4-0.
They're too good.
They are too good. So one thing I want to talk about before we go is, the Stanley Cup. Are the Flyers legit? Can they win the Stanley Cup with the unit they have right now?
No.
But do you think they can get to the Stanley Cup Finals?
They're perfect the way they are to win the Stanley Cup, but the man behind the bench won't do it. He didn't do it in New York.
So you think it's the chewing gum guy?
I've seen coaching changes and coaching decisions that he's made in the postseason with the Rangers to have very minimal faith that he will be able to get the Flyers over that hump. It was just the amount of times, and when the Rangers' last playoff run against Ottawa, that they had late leads and blew it because he had such a passive defensive system when they had a lead late in games, hurt them. And that was on a Rangers defensive team that at the time was one of the best in the league. Even at the end of that run, they were still up there. And I don't think the Flyers are as good defensively. So for them to be able to beat teams in the playoffs, I don't think his style of hockey is going to work. And he's a great coach. He might be one of the best regular season coaches I've ever seen. I've never seen teams just every time he coaches a team, they excel. And he's taken 2 different teams to the Cup final. He just doesn't have that maneuverability, I guess, to get over that hump, to outcoach somebody else when it matters most.
All right, last thing is Carter Hart was not good at game against the Sabres. They lose 6-1 in that game. Come back with a 3-0 win, but Hart wasn't in net. It was Elliott that made 40 saves. For the next game against the struggling Bruins, who can't score 5-on-5, you go back to Hart, or you keep Elliott in because he performed well in relief of Hart, and then he performed very well the game after.
Elliott had great career numbers against Buffalo.
Yep.
Going into that. And that's all that is. Hart's your number one. Hart's your number one for the next 15 years. You go back to Hart.
All right, well, the Oilers Maple Leafs game has just started. Thanks to our guest, Jimmy Murphy, coming on of Boston Hockey Now. It's been an excellent episode, and we thank you for coming on. Guys, another edition of the Backcheck will be Sunday. It's a pre-recorded show, and then we will see you guys back again next week. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
The Backcheck is your one-stop shop for NHL news and all things Rangers and Islanders. Thanks for sticking with us for this edition of The Backcheck. Follow the show on social media at Backcheck Pod.